Okie dokie. Here we are. Third week of the characterologies. This is the fourth week total of the class. So kind of a quick review. The first week was the schizoid. And do you remember, I'm going to test you guys. Do you remember the basic fear or the purpose of looking at the schizoid?
They want to be in the body.
Exactly. And so it's kind of like we're going little by little. It's like feeling safe to be in the body was kind of the first stop because it was positive things. So that's kind of the beginning, to be able to feel in the body and feel safe. And then last week we looked at the oral characterology structure, kind of what was it?
Feeling like you're enough.
Exactly. Feeling like you're enough, full and complete, so you don't have to draw energy from other places and other things, that you can find the energy and strength within. And so the masochist, which is what we're going to look at tonight, is kind of leading a little bit further with that. And it's similar to feeling full, but it's really owning your power and your essence. And feeling it's not a power over people, it's feeling that power within of who I am and knowing who I am and feeling that power. Knowing, exactly. So I thought before we start and go through all the things that kind of lead up to the masochistic behavior, because as I was reading over it, it was like, oh, this is getting a little sticky. Let me wipe some of that off. Because it's kind of the poor me, the victim attitude. I know it's kind of
I know her.
I think we all kind of know him and her. And so before we go down that road, I thought it would be good to just kind of take a minute, put everything down, close your eyes, kind of go inside and connect with your heart. Do a little bit of heart breath. I'm breathing in and out through the heart. And connecting with the heart and the essence within, from the schizoid and the oral, and feeling safe within our body, feeling full and enough, feeling like I am enough. And then begin to see if you can remember a time in your life when you felt proud of yourself. That's kind of the empowering part. Maybe you had done something well. Feeling like you were really proud and feeling good about yourself inside. This is kind of the empowering part, which is what the masochist can bring us to on the other side of the victim. It's feeling empowered. So see if you can bring in that feeling wherever you might feel it in your body. Maybe it's your heart, maybe it's your belly. And if there's an image that can help you do that, then that's why we kind of bring in the image of maybe a time when you were really successful or you felt really good about something. And feeling that and just noting where you feel that in the body. And then just allowing that energy of feeling empowered, confidence. See where you feel that in your body. It's like, I am so proud of you. I am empowered. I feel confident. Allow that to expand through your body. If you can get a feeling of what that's like, and then allow it to kind of fill your aura and your energy field. Spread a little bit around you, just being able to feel that. Because as we go through this checklist of the victim and the masochist, then we'll be able to know when it feels like, oh, yeah, been there, done that, and let's release it. So hopefully you got a taste of that. And when you're ready, just open your eyes and bring yourself presence back to the room. And let's see. Here, Christy. And then I have a couple for you, Brian. Okay. And I thought more as we go through this to be able to, if you think of examples, I mean, a lot of times I've given examples. If you think of examples of, yeah, you know, I've been there, done that kind of thing, feel free to speak up. And as you can see, there's like a long checklist here. And just to kind of look at the picture on the other side maybe first, we're not going to read through everything, but notice the difference in these two pictures and the ones we've seen before. This is kind of imagining, in other words, it's every time that someone says something maybe that you take on as, you know, well, you're not any good, or you can't do that, or all of that stuff that we kind of take in and blame ourselves or others. It's like it becomes like if you could stuff pillows, you know, all throughout your energy field. And that's kind of when it becomes heavy and, you know, and just kind of weights us down. So you can tell a lot of difference in the energy field of these, which is not necessarily, you know, an overly weight person, but there's just a lot of stuffed energy around them because of what they've carried energetically for most of their lifetime. So looking back then on the other side, we're just going to read through some of this, and like I said, trying to stay in the power, inner power strength that we just checked into, and knowing where, oh yeah, I can feel that one, and then we'll kind of maybe take a minute to even release that, because this is all about taking your power back, owning your inner strength and your power. Some of the characteristics are feeling crushed, powerless. It's the victim, poor me attitude, which I think it's a lot in our society right now. And the past life experiences would be where there was an abuse of power, disrespect for one's dignity, suppression of freedom, personal annihilation, which is kind of similar to the schizoid, in the state of near total physical or psychological powerless. So in a past life where you didn't have any control, you know, maybe you were like in a concentration camp, you know, or those kinds of things where you didn't have any control over what was happening to you, and it was kind of a horrible situation. So that you kind of bring that energy in because you lived in it for so long. It's like the past life that's coming to me that has come up for me in the past was, see, I can still feel it in my belly, because that's when I know that it's true, is I was actually it relates to my ex-husband. He owned a harem, and I was one of his harems in a past life. Oh God, this feels yucky. It's really weird. Anyway, I was one of his favored at first, and the other harem got really jealous, and he was afraid that someone other was going to steal me, so they devised a plan where the rest of I got beat up and was crippled then the rest of that lifetime. And so, as I said, I can almost still kind of feel that, you know, that yuckiness of what it would feel like to live, you know, 10, 20 years, you know, a cripple, whereas before, you know, you had great glory even. So those are the kinds of lifetimes that we live, and we carry that energy in to learn the other side of it. So as I blow that out, give me an example there. Okay, so submission, fear, a sense of powerlessness, despair, sadness, loss of confidence in one's own power, and repressed anger. So a lot of the masochist is going to carry the suppressed anger. And I think sometimes that's the one that sometimes, it's like they carry all of this and they keep it all inside, and then it explodes through shootings or anger, or some kind of abuse that just kind of, they may even be like the quiet kid in your classroom, which is a lot of times what you read about, and then all of a sudden they just explode because they've kept all of this inside and haven't had a chance to express it. So it's a lot. It can either be rebellion, so it can be the other case of that, or it can be kind of the suppressed, kind of even passive-aggressive anger, where you say, I think that for me it was like, saying those sarcastic remarks, learned that really well with my brother. It's like we'd have sarcastic wars, so you could be the most rude and sarcastic when we were growing up. So rebellion, anger, rage, aggressiveness because of this. The past life experiences you could experience even as the perpetrator, because the theory is that we've all experienced lives as the perpetrator and as the victim, because the soul is trying to learn both sides of the coin. And so it's like if you've been the perpetrator and then you come back as the victim, it gives you a different perspective on the soul level to experience both sides of it. It sounds kind of crazy, but it is a part of the plan. In the birth experiences, it could be nothing can be done about it. So there's a powerlessness in the birth. Could be using forceps, premature cutting of the umbilical cord, slaps on the bottom to make them breathe. And we talked about birth experiences last week with the oral characterology. I know for myself, I was a forcep baby. I even have a crease in my head right here where I can feel where they were forcing it. And for me, I just feel like it made me really stubborn, because it's like, they're pulling on you, and I'm sure it was painful, and they're doing what they have to do to try and help you out. My mother had ether, so she was anesthetized, completely out of it, and I'm kind of out of it because I'm getting it. But so they're trying to pull me out, and I'm like, because the instinct of the fetus or the baby is to want to do it herself, It's kind of like that 2-year-old want to feel empowered to do it myself and to go through that. But when that's taken away from you, then it can be very frustrating and bring in that victimless, like, you didn't have any control over the situation. Okay, whoosh, we're gonna release some of that stuff. So it gets into the blame guilt cycle in early childhood, which causes the child then to have whims and tantrums and resistance. The no phase. We talk about the terrible twos, and I know we both have grandkids which have been through, and you have kids and experiences with children, and I know it's not easy. I mean, I taught parenting classes when I was a school counselor, and it wasn't even easy then. And of course, I got mine at ages 5 and 6, so I only had grandkids at that age. But I did read a story one time about a lady who, her son, they were on a trip and they'd been on the train, and he understood that when they got off the train, then they were going to be able to do whatever the next piece was like get on a boat, or something. Well, and then when they got off the train, they discovered that it was going to be like another 30 minutes and they had to walk so far to get to the next thing. Well, I don't remember, maybe 3 or 4-year-old kid, was like throwing a fit, he just screaming and hollering or whatever. And in most cases, the parent would probably just drag them along, yelling and screaming back or whatever. But what she did stuck in my head because I thought it was so powerful. Instead of, like I said, dragging him, she just sat down on the ground with him, let him kind of work through whatever he was feeling. And finally, when he calmed down, then be able to talk with him about, this is what's happening, I don't have any control over it either, and so had a conversation with him, being able to explain, I wish we could get on the boat now too, or whatever it was. But I thought that was really powerful, whereas most of the time it's kind of like the parent overpowering the kid, trying to make the kid do what they want them to do. Whereas in most cases we would just get down on their level, understand what they're going through, and just really be able to experience what they're experiencing. It can be very powerful.
It's easier with grandkids.
It
just
is
to let them be, if they want to throw, and then the parents come
welcome.
They try to
come
fix
in.
it.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Is having the sound healing in here today?
Oh, the sound healing is tomorrow night.
Oh, we got here a day early.
But that's okay. This is cute. We're having a class, but you're welcome to stay or come back tomorrow night at 7.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 24 hours early. That's okay. It's all right. Come on in. Anyway, I thought that was really powerful, and that's something that we don't think about, and it's just our culture of being able to, try and demand and make. I mean, that's the way I was raised, authoritarian, demanding the kid to be the way you don't speak, and the whole bit, instead of really honoring that child where they are.
Luckily it seems to be moving, the parenting styles now get to seem to be moving more in that direction of,
it's much better.
Respectful parenting, love and logic. And,
all those
okay,
things,
understand. We just, I have the same emotions, but I've learned how to regulate them or deal with them, and he just hasn't yet,
Exactly. Well, and
go through stuff.
Exactly. And I think as the parents, as we deal with our stuff, then we're more easily to deal with what's going on with the child. But when we have our own stuff and we're being triggered by the child, because that's exactly what my counselor told me. She said when kids get to be teenagers, she said it's like they have this little antenna that goes right where they need to trigger you so you can work on your stuff. And I'm like, that's not fair. I mean, I gotta work on my stuff. So, it's very powerful. And so the kids are trying to help us learn to work on our own stuff.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do a little experiment here since it came to my mind. This is an example of, no, I'm not gonna tell you what the example is first, I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so Lori, I need you to stand up. I'll do it with both of you. Okay, put your hands up. Okay. You can sit down.
I gave you my power.
You're doing it. Hold on.
It's like, what's up?
Now you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, now I'm
here.
like, oh.
Oh, get to do it with Brian. Okay. For the adolescents, of course, they're going to go through a lot of rebellion and trying to find their sense of essence and who they are and their own inner power. I don't think our society does a very good job of, what do they call them, like stages of where when you're 21 or, you can drink, or when you're 16 you can drive. In some, African villages and so forth, you have a rite of passage, or maybe even in the Native American culture, you have a rite of passage when you reach something and you've struggled and you've gotten there, whether it's maybe a track through the village or whatever it was that you had to do to reach that level. It can be very empowering. That's why I kind of had us bring in maybe an image of a time when you felt really proud of yourself, you felt really confident, because that brings that feeling of empowerment in. And so our rebellion is very typical in teenagers because they don't have a lot of opportunities to really prove who they are, and so they kind of struggle again with determining who they are, owning their power, and it can be done in different ways. As we said, just kind of meeting them where they are and kind of talking with them, it can be very empowering. It's the underlying fear is fear of being stifled, fear of power. It's almost like they're afraid to feel power, fear of being taken, fear of being manipulated and exploited. I remember when I first started massage school, I was taking Tai Chi so I could learn balance because I was in my 50s. And in the Tai Chi, we did some. She had me like punch a punching bag, and it was like I was so wimpy. It was like I couldn't do it. My body did not know how to just even punch a bag. Even though I grew up with brothers, we wrestled or whatever. It was like the idea of hitting something. And it's not even the idea that we need to hit something, but it was an empowering an opportunity because it's standing up for who we are. So it's like owning. It's taken me a while to be able to even say no in some situations, because that can be empowering when you've been, the doormat or disempowered in so many ways. So sometimes it's just stepping up and owning your own inner no can be very powerful. Under the emotional charge, there's a sense of powerlessness, anger, rage, resentment, jealousy, a sense of injustice. And the basic defense systems, which we've talked about energetically, can just be submission, where you just kind of give up. It's kind of like, why try?
Depressed.
Yeah. Rebellion, so it could be the opposite. You could rebel. Criticism, you're just constantly sabotaging yourself in some ways because you never feel like you're good enough or deserve enough or empowered enough. And so then it's always blaming the other person, the negativity, complaints, aggressiveness, and guilt. Statements like, people are mean, it's their fault, life is painful and unfair. So a lot of this, and I think it says it on down there, has to do with, that the manifestation rules of, I may be saying, I'm trying to manifest, a car, a new job, or something, and in my mind I'm saying positive statements over and over and over. But if underneath I'm really feeling like I don't deserve it, that I really, poor me, I just really don't deserve this, I'm not good enough, everybody's told me that. And so you're owning that on some level. And then so there's a conflict in what you can manifest in your life, even though on some level you're constantly maybe thinking it, but you're not feeling it in your whole system. Because what we're learning more and more about manifestation is feeling it in your system. And when you feel that fullness in your body, aliveness, power of who I am, it's not a power over, it's an empowered of who you are, then you're more able to draw into your life those things that you're really wanting to attract.
Those feelings are so hard to,
Yeah.
and they get triggered so easy.
Yeah.
It's like right now just thinking, it's like I'm so grateful I am where I am, but
Right.
I can remember
Right.
that feeling, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, thank God I'm not there, but it's like, I feel for the people that are. It's like, it's so,
Yeah.
if you don't, and you don't even know,
Right.
you don't even know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It happens so much on a subconscious level too, that it's hard for people to realize that sometimes they're sabotaging yourself. That's one of the reasons I'm doing these classes is basically to help people understand that energetically we may be drawing or
Doing
not
something different than
drawing
we
something
think.
in that we want, and I can remember when I was a school counselor and I was getting all into this positive, statements and stuff. And I remember trying to say the affirmations, and because I'm very kinesthetic, I would say the affirmation, and then I could feel somewhere in my system, it's like, I really don't believe this. I was like, I'm saying it, but part of my body was going, and so I was conflicted. It's like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And of course that was 50 years ago, almost. I graduated from I'm telling my age now. I graduated. This is my 50-year anniversary. I've been of high school. I graduated in '69. I'm telling my age now. So it was a long time ago, and things have shifted since then. And the awarenesses of positive thinking, along with feeling it and knowing it in your system, is totally different than just the mental. Because we're not just a mental field. We're not just a mental person. We're physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so it's working with all parts of who we are and owning that. Yeah. Questions on that?
Is it kind of like, I've heard it referred to as an imposter syndrome, where you like,
I love that.
somebody's gonna find out that I don't really know what I'm doing and I shouldn't be here. And I see it a lot that like women in at work, you know,
Right.
just like, I'm gonna go be tough and play in the
Right.
boys' world, and but deep down somebody's gonna figure out that
Yeah.
You're
I'm not really
I like
as smart
that.
as I look like.
Right.
That's Bruce Springsteen. He said he wrote
It's
that book about being a fraud.
Right.
And it's like, the more, it's like, I think, it's like you growing up, you think the adults have it all together and they really know. And I was talking with my husband, I said, everybody's just faking it at some level. You
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just doing,
Fake it till you make it.
yeah, the best
Yeah.
we know how.
Yeah. I remember when my dad lived to be 98, and when he got into his 90s, it was an aha for me that, you know, he lived a long, full life, but he didn't know everything.
Yeah.
You know, because you think your parents or whatever, you know, own the world or know
Yeah,
everything,
so
like you
just-
said,
yeah.
you know, just like that. And it's like, I don't think he's got it all together. like I thought he would. By the time you're 90, you should have it all figured out. And,
Well,
you know.
you finally kind of get it together and then you start losing it.
Right. Is that it? Don't say that, Lori. Don't say that, Lori. I'm getting
I take it
younger.
back. Delete,
Yes, take it. Delete that one. Okay, let's see. We have mistrust, fear of being taken or overpowered. In relationships, it's kind of interesting. There is a stifle the here. One plays the card of heroism and sacrifice, using the weapon to make the other feel guilty. So there could be a lot of games. And like I said, I think in my marriage I was probably more passive aggressive than anything. So, you know, different ways of kind of
Just let them think they're the boss.
you know, throwing it at the other person, and manipulation, you know, through meekness and niceness. You know. I think that was my game of, you know, the nice little girl, but underneath that, you know, was a lot of shame and guilt. Because I grew up in a religion where that was glamorized. You know, the more you sacrifice, you know, the more you're honored, you know, and you're going to go to heaven or whatever, you know. So it was not only in my family, but it was in my religion. So, I was typing here. It is in conflict through anger, compliments, and blame. I don't know what that one is.
Complaints. Is that complaints or compliments?
Oh, complaints and blame. Common can be very violent, so there's some violence there. Anger often affects the entire digestive tract and generates an endless list of chronic illnesses, chronic liver malfunctions, stomach problems, ulcers, intestine, insomnia. In Chinese medicine, I know the organs hold different emotions. Like we think of the heart, you know, as joy and love. And the anger in particular is held in the liver. So,
Kidney sorrow.
Kidney is a lot of fear. So any of these are going to affect the physical body also. Stress due to anger suppression generates backaches, strong tension in the shoulders. I know a lot of mine has been opening my chest up as I've come more into my power and my essence, as this is opening up, because before it was a lot like this, feeling compressed. And not only this characterology, but some of the schizoid and some of the others. So, we're going to transform all of that.
Yeah.
Yay. On the other side is great power. The transformation includes applying the principles of responsibility, attraction, creation, as we talked about that. When I am responsible, I'm responsible for that out there. I can't just continually to blame everyone else for poor me. In other words, if I'm in my inner power, then I'm going to draw those things to me. So you're creating your own life through your own power. So stop complaining, judging, blaming, criticizing, and dramatizing. And cultivate an attitude of contentment and gratitude in all circumstances. Practice goodwill. And we're going to do a little exercise here to kind of draw back some of the power that we've given away. This was a quote, and I mistyped there, so if you have a pen, you might want to correct it. It's supposed to say,
Ours is correct.
Yeah, he
I
corrected
corrected several of them, maybe not all of them. Okay, good. Just as conserved heat is transformed into energy, thus our controlled anger can be transmuted into a power that can move the world. And that was Gandhi, he's a great example of doing that in a passive kind of way. The qualities then of the transformation are compassion, reliability, endurance, courage, expressions of love through goodwill, sacrifice, and service. And the
Sacrifice doesn't sound right there.
right.
Because sacrifice, I mean,
You're right, Lori. I don't like it there either, but it was on the stuff that I read. But I agree because
yeah,
and
it's like the martyrs is
right.
that sacrifice is like a martyr, and that's not goodwill and service.
Right. And I think it's the interpretation of sacrifice.
Okay.
Maybe it could be
That's how I
used
see it.
as a positive kind of thing instead of giving up your power. If you're, I don't know, help me, can you think of a time when sacrifice would be more of a positive kind of?
Giving of time that could have been used somewhere else. And that's a sacrifice of time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Choosing how to use that time.
Right.
Different.
You sacrificed some time to be here this evening to work on yourself.
Okay,
to learn
and so
and grow.
like time, like just like personal time for
Right.
myself instead. I come here, but it's still for myself.
Right.
And personal time, like
Or
I can think of like with my grandchildren.
Right,
It's like
that was the other-
spending my time with grandchildren.
right.
It's like I'm giving up my personal time,
Right.
but yet I'm not.
Right. And so I don't really
could
see.
yeah, okay.
I
I
don't
could
see it as
sleep
a
in on Saturday
sacrifice.
morning, or I could
Yeah.
Yeah.
wake up early and go help at the
Yeah.
food bank, you know?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so
I'd
that
rather
was
sleep
the
in,
yeah.
but I guess.
I'm like
Okay.
you. I think the goodwill and the caring and compassion is a much better way to describe it. It's our
Uh-huh.
definition of the sacrifice that we get hung up
Yes.
on those words. So
Yeah.
it's all
It's like
good.
poor me. It's like I gotta do this.
Yeah.
I don't. Yes, that's what
Exactly.
comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a lot, and so we're going to do a little exercise to help you gain back some of your power if you,
Victimitis.
yeah.
I just saw that word on that. I like that
So
word.
what?
It's
The other side?
The other side. Victimitis. It just popped
Yeah,
out at me.
isn't that cute? Yeah, so
I'm
that's
gonna
a
use that.
kind of, yeah,
Oh, looks like she's suffering from victimitis.
yeah.
You know, that made me think of something. It's like to do like a painting with that
Mm,
and write it on there, and then just to
yeah,
put it all out there.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It was kind of, yeah, it was kind of, did you see the picture that I used for the event this time?
Yes,
That had
I
kind of all
loved
the
that picture.
dark kind of stuff over here and this, the colors coming in. I thought, it's always fun to try and find pictures that go with
Yeah.
the event.
I love
I
it.
thought that was very
That's a good
descriptive.
image for a masochist.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So you can put your stuff down and let's see where we want to start. What we're going to do is we're gonna just kind of go deep inside and see if there was a time when you gave your power away to someone. It can be a teacher, it could be a past life thing that comes up, it could be anybody, anything. And then we're gonna do a little kind of guided thing of taking back your power from that person, and it can be more than one. So I'm just gonna have you take some deep breaths. I'm gonna play the ball so we can kind of get deep inside and connect with your heart and your inner guidance. Take some deep breaths in and out through your heart. Breathing slower and deeper. Imagine a river or something that can swirl down and take you deeper, deeper inside. An elevator or stairways.
What happened?
What happened? Good question. Any comments? The difference is, if my objective was to get you to sit in your chair, so as a teacher sometimes you're always trying to get your kids to sit down. If my objective was to get you, if I'm trying to push you, you're standing your ground totally, and I knew that was coming because he's really powerful. You kind of let me push you way back here. She kind of knew what was going on. But if my objective was to make you sit down, in other words,
Oh, you
control
wouldn't have been able to.
Right. But when I gestured, yeah, you're just meeting their needs. So let's try it one more time, and this time I'm going to do a little different.
Why do I have to be?
I know, I was like, you should go first this time.
Because you like to be first.
Not always. Okay.
So what was different there? I wasn't pushing. What was happening?
More connection.
Yeah. I was meeting you where you are. Just like when she sat on the ground with him and met him where he was. I mean, none of you were throwing any fits or anything, but I wasn't trying to push or
Overpower.
make you
Yeah.
do something. The idea is when someone is met right where they are, honored right where they are, it can be very empowering. Because that's a lot of what this is about, is as the authority and blame and guilt, you're taking away the power when you're trying to force, and whether it's another adult or whether it's a child, an adolescent, or whoever it is. But when I can, and if you've ever been met in that way, it's very powerful. It makes you feel very powerful. And I just kind of give you a little taste of it because as we were working through it, of what can be, and you're not necessarily putting your hands up when you meet somebody, but you can do that energetically and just say, you know, I'm here for you. I can remember the first time when I was working with my BIP, and I was going through some emotional stuff, and I was crying. And normally I was raised with, you know, don't cry unless you have something, you know, you don't have anything to cry about, you know. To be able to cry was even powerful for me. And she said, What would it be like if I just sat with you, allowing you to sink deep inside to your inner wisdom, your inner guidance? Maybe to a place in your body where it feels disempowered. And just allow an image to come where you were giving your power away to someone, where you felt like disempowered. It can be any situation, the time when you felt disempowered. As we've talked, maybe some situations have arisen as we've talked about different things. Maybe as a child, an adolescent, as an adult, past life. When was a time you felt disempowered? Felt like you had been abused? And then I want you to take the image of that person or that situation and move it out as far away from you as possible, so the energy is not right in front of you. Take the image and move it out to the parking lot, to the next state, to the moon. Take the image and move it out as far away as possible until your body feels safe and comfortable. And contain it there. You can work with where it feels most comfortable, whether it be in the parking lot or on the moon. Using your body as a monitor, moving it out, the image as far away as you need to. Using your body as a monitor. So if you bring it in close, notice what happens in your body. It can bring back those same feelings of feeling disempowered or yucky or whatever. And as the image or the person is contained out there, what I want you to imagine doing is with your energetic hand or even with your physical hand, you can imagine you're reaching back and taking back the power that you gave to them. You've given away your power because you let them take it, basically. So imagine in your mind that you're reaching out and you're taking back the power that you gave to them. Bringing it back to your own inner power. Reaching out, they're contained, and you're taking back the power that they took from you. It's like energetic cords. On some level, you consciously gave away your power. Even as a small child, you can imagine yourself bigger than the parents, and that at some point you're taking back the power that they unintentionally took away from you just because of that's the way the system was. No blame, no shame, no guilt here on anyone's part. You're just taking back the power that you gave away to some situation or some person. Just notice how the body feels. The body is your monitor. As you take your power back and feel that within you. Claiming you. inner power and strength within you. On some unconscious level, you gave away your power. We're reclaiming it, bringing it back to you. So you can feel it in your system and know that inner power and strength. Like feeling the bear strength sometimes is what I imagine. Feeling like if there's a big old bear and the baby bear is going to be attacked, the mother bear will fight for that. So what you're doing is claiming your inner power, bear strength, whatever you want, image that helps you feel that inner power. Claiming your inner essence. To know what it feels like in the body, so you know when you're not there, and so you know when those poor me statements start coming up that disempower you. You can feel it in your system. You know, this is who you really are. This is who your soul claims you to be. And the other little piece of this exercise is if there's anything in you that you have taken from this situation or this person that you need to give back to them, you can do that now. Anything in you that you have taken from this person or situation that you need to give back to them. Healing the cord between the two of you in the situation. Anything that you have taken from them, giving it back to them so that they can have their essence and you can have yours. You can both be full and powerful. No blame, no guilt, no manipulation. Just owning your inner power and strength. vibration, that person, for helping you reclaim and know your inner power and strength on a deeper level. You can begin to bring your consciousness back to the room. Words, comments, how was that for you? There's one other little story that's coming to mind of a person who I feel like had a lot of inner power and yet great compassion. It's a story of Martin Luther King Jr. And he was in a crowd of people, and someone spit on his shoe as he was walking through the crowd. And most obviously that would bring up a lot of anger and frustration. And what he did was pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket and wipes it off of his foot and says, "I believe this belongs to you." He gives it to the person. And it's like, wow. To be so full, I mean, it makes you think kind of even of, Jesus stories, and so forth. To be so full of your own power, essence, love, compassion, everything that we truly are. And, then to let the other person, and it's like, it's actually a song. I think the title is "I Believe This Belongs to You," and it talks about, he says, I've been in your shoes, I've walked there, I know what you're doing, but this is not mine, this is yours, basically. And so to be able, when we're triggered, when anger is thrown at us, to be able to say, that's not mine, that's yours, and I honor your path, whatever it is, but I'm not going to take that on, which is kind of what the powerless person does, and becomes guilty, and shame, and then you feel all that anger and frustration, and either comes out in rebellion or comes into suppression, where you kind of pull it in. So it's owning who we are and owning who everyone else is, and claiming that. That's who we are. All right. Thanks for coming this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for me it was like seeing, because really that's not who they are either.
Right. Exactly. Right. We all have our stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not who we are.
Right. That's not who our soul is. And so we're, claiming more and more of the divine essence of who we are.
And just trying to see them.
Yeah. Right. Right. And that's where the compassion comes in, when you can get to the other side of, of that, then you can see great compassion for everyone else, because you've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know what you're feeling and know what you're going through, and I'm here to help in any way that I can, but I'm not going to take
with
on.
you with it,
Yes.
but
Exactly. It's like we said, meeting that person right where they are and being there with them is a whole different story than trying to force and blame and guilt, which is a lot of what we're in right now in our
And
world.
sometimes
society.
you have to say,
Yes.
when I can't do this,
Yep.
and when you're ready, I'm here, but
Right.
until then,
Exactly.
I can't do this.
That's right. those boundaries. And that's basically my understanding from Carla McLaren is anger's purpose is to help us set boundaries. So know when you're feeling angry or somebody else is, their boundaries have been violated. And that's why I kind of get that image sometimes of like the bear, kind of has to come into his
Come any
power.
closer, I will.
Yeah, I will. I
Don't
will.
make me.
I might not wipe
Cross
it
that
off.
boundary.
Exactly.
Have to have a different
Exactly.
discussion.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is boundaries are important, but it seems like the more we come into our divine essence, it's almost like you don't have boundaries. So there's almost that paradox of you need boundaries, but then the more we begin connected and the more we all are kind of moving to that higher consciousness because you're connected with everyone else. So it's,
And it's like,
yeah.
so the more you evolve or ascend, it's like you're up here and this is down here, so it's not even affecting you
Right.
so much.
Right. Yeah, it's like the radical
observe it,
forgiveness, so
yeah.
you have it, see it from a whole different
Yeah.
perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all good. It's all good.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're all on our journeys. I definitely don't know it all.
Oh.
It's just been fun sharing it, what I've learned over the years.
And they say